Hello students, welcome to the Geography Mapping series. In this particular video, in detail, we are going to cover the South American continent, its major physical features, the important river system, biomes, and everything that is relevant from the UPSC Prelims examination perspective. Now, first of all, to give you an idea about South America. South America is one of the continents on the earth and it is made up of several countries. For example, if you look at first of all the countries of South America, you can see in the north itself you have Venezuela. Then further as you come south, you have Colombia. We can do the capital itself. The capital of Venezuela is called as Caracas. Similarly, Colombia is a country, its capital is called as Bogota. Further down south, you have Ecuador, whose capital is Quito. Then you have Peru. Now, if you look at the country itself, Ecuador, question is why it is called as Ecuador, and the answer is because the equator is passing through Ecuador as such. And look at the equatorial line, that is 0 degree latitude. Basically, equator, that is 0 degree latitude, passes through several countries of South America. These are Ecuador, then you have a part of we can call as Peru, then you have Colombia, and then you have Brazil as such. Similarly, as you come to the south, you have Peru. Capital of Peru is Lima. Then we have Bolivia, whose capital is La Paz. La Paz is also considered as the highest capital city of the world because it is located at very high elevation. Similarly, further down south, you have Chile. Chile's capital is called as Santiago. Then you have Argentina, another major country of South America, and its capital is Buenos Aires. Then we have Uruguay, whose capital is Montevideo. Then further, you have Brazil, and we know the capital of Brazil is Brasilia. So further in the north, you have several countries. These are called as French Guiana, Suriname, and you have Guyana. These countries used to be colony of English, French, and Dutch. Now, if you try to understand the other important line that passes through the South America, that is Tropic of Capricorn. So, Tropic of Capricorn in South America passes through countries such as Peru, Bolivia, and then further you have Brazil as such. So this is the overall view we can understand as far as the South America is concerned. Now, South America itself, out of all the 7 continents that we have on the earth, is considered as the 4th largest continent. And overall, it stretches all the way from Gulf of Darien, that you have Darien Gap also it is called as. These days it is very much in news because Darien Gap is considered as the dangerous stretch or most dangerous stretch along which illegal migration occurs. Many people from India who also migrate illegally to North America such as US, Canada, they use this route through South America, and this is called as Gulf of Darien, where it is also referred as lawless land. Now in the northwest to the archipelago of Tierra del Fuego. Now again, if you look at the southernmost part of South America, this particular archipelago that you see separated by a strait that is called as Strait of, we can call as Magellan. So Strait of Magellan separates the entire upper South America with the Tierra del Fuego archipelago, and this used to be one of the major shipping route in the absence of Panama Canal in the older time. Now the only route through which you can come from this side of the Atlantic to the side of Pacific used to be Strait of Magellan. However, now this distance has been significantly reduced due to the opening of Panama Canal here in Panama as such. So that is how we have to understand the entire South America. Now, also one interesting thing you will see that near Argentina you will find another group of island mentioned here, Falkland Island. Though it belongs to the continent of South America, Falkland Island is considered as the overseas territory of the British as such. Then it is surrounded by several water bodies. In the east, if you look, you have the Atlantic Ocean. In the west, you will have the Pacific Ocean. Then in the further south, you will have the Southern Ocean. And then if you look at this particular region, this is what you can call as Caribbean Sea as such. So these are the important water bodies around the South American continent. Now, if you look at the physiographical divisions of the continent, overall it is classified into 3 divisions. First is mountains and highlands, that is plateaus. Second is the river basins, that is largely made up of the river system. And then third we have is the coastal plains. Now, if you look at this particular mountain and highland structure itself, without saying, you can understand the longest mountain in the entire world is in the South America, all the way stretching from the north of South America to the south along the western coast as such. This mountain is called as Andes mountain range. Now, if you look at the Andes mountain range itself, it is about 8,850 kilometers long mountain, and here in the Andes you will find the tallest peak, that is called as Mount Aconcagua. The entire Andes mountain itself, we can say, is nothing but an example of what you can call as volcanic mountain. This entire mountain has developed because if you go on this side, you have the plate, an oceanic plate called as Nazca plate. So when Nazca plate subducted below the South American continental plate, we know it is an example of classic ocean continent convergence, and because of this you have the volcanic eruption. This volcanic lava then erupted and further cooled and solidified to form the longest mountain range on the earth, and that is how the Andes mountain has come into picture as such. So it stretches all the way from, you can say, in the north from Venezuela, that is the northernmost country, and in the south all the way up to Argentina as such, passing through all the countries in between such as Colombia, Ecuador, then you have Peru, then you have Bolivia, then you have Chile, and then you have Argentina. So overall, we can say total we have 7 countries through which the Andes mountain range traverses across or passes across. Then further, as we go to the highland region, highlands we can classify into several types. First is the Altiplano of Peru and Bolivia. Peru and Bolivia is the countries we know is along the western region, western coast, and Bolivia is further to the east. And here the average elevation of this plateau is about 3,700 meter, and this is where I told you lies the highest capital city of world, that is La Paz, capital of Bolivia. Then further you have Brazilian highlands and Guiana highland. So let us try to look at each of these landmasses itself. So if you look at again the map of South America to understand this, as we have discussed, this is the Andes mountain, and somewhere around this area you will find the Altiplano or Altiplano of the Peru and Bolivia as such. Then Guiana highland is a small area in the northern section of South America, as we can see. And near the Guiana highland itself, you can see countries such as Venezuela, and then further down south you have Colombia as such. Then further you have Brazilian highland, that is present in the largest country of South America, that is Brazil here. Brazilian highlands are example of also what you can call as a volcanic plateau as such. In the Brazilian highland itself, you will find grassland, and these grasslands are what we call as campos. So campos grassland, very very important part of Brazilian highland, example of what we can call as a tropical grassland as such. So we have campos grassland here. Further near Guiana highland, it is the Llanos grassland, where you have the Orinoco river that flows through, and further down south you have the third important grassland, that is Pampas grassland. Now what you have to remember from examination perspective is that out of the 3 major grasslands you have in South America, Llanos and Campos are example of tropical grassland. That means the grasses are very tall. There is also a mixture of trees here. Grasses are also having low nutrition value. On the other hand, Pampas grassland, which is in Argentina, Uruguay border, there you will have the temperate grassland, which is made up of short, dense and nutritious grasses, very very important from animal grazing perspective as such. Now as we have discussed, the capital of Bolivia that you have is La Paz in the Altiplano, and further you have Peru, this side you have Bolivia, and this side you have the Chile as such. So it is believed that it is because of the folding activity of Andes mountain, this entire landmass has become kind of elevated, and that is how plateau-like structure has developed. Now, if you look at this entire highland areas, largely because of their higher elevation, we have alpine biome that you find here. In the alpine biome, you will find that the plants and the trees that grow here, their leaves are stiff and strong to protect them from frost and drought, because as it is very high elevation areas, in the winter season specifically, they are affected by frost, and also because they are surrounded by mountain from all the sides, it basically we can say lies in the rain shadow region of the Andes mountain. Thus obviously the amount of rainfall is very low, creating dry arid desert like condition. So drought is also very frequent in nature. Also, one of the major plant that you'll find here is called as Puya raimondi, which is also believed to be the largest herb in the world as such, whose photograph you can see from there. Largest means tallest herb, we can say, grows in this particular region of South America. Now let us look at the important river basins of South America. So river basins overall, if you look at the 4 major river systems of South America, these are Amazon river system, obviously the largest river system of not only South America, but Amazon river itself is considered as the largest river of the entire world in terms of the volume of water it discharges in the Atlantic Ocean. At the same time, after Nile, Amazon by length is also considered as one of the longest river on the earth as such. So this Amazon river system is the largest river system of South America. Second largest river system, the second large river system of South America is, you can see further to the Uruguay and Paraguay and then Argentina side. These are called as Paraguay Parana river basin, and these are draining out in what you could call as Rio de la Plata. They form Rio Plata estuary as such. Third largest river system of South America is what you can call as here. You have Orinoco River Basin that is flowing along Venezuela, and then the fourth largest is Sao Francisco River, not San Francisco. San Francisco is the city in USA. Here the river is in Brazil. The river itself is called as Sao Francisco, originating from Belo Horizonte is the name of the place here. And then further you have the Tocantins River, that is the fifth one. So these are how we can describe the major river systems of South America. Now let us look at the important river system in detail. As we have discussed, Amazon River is the largest river system. Overall, if you look at the Amazon River basin, the entire area is about 7 million square kilometers as such. To put things in perspective, the area of India is 3.2 million square kilometers. That means the Amazon River basin itself is almost 2.5 times larger than entire India's area. At the same time, in terms of the volume water, it discharges roughly 200,000 cubic meters of fresh water every second. That is important point. 200,000 cubic meters of fresh water every second in the Atlantic Ocean, and because of this, it is referred as a life force of the rainforest, because along the entire Amazon River, as you can see the aerial view from here, you can see all around the Amazon River you find the surrounding lush green dense forest. These are best example of equatorial evergreen forest. And you can see from here, this is the survival of forest and the diversity here, biodiversity here. One of the reason behind this we can consider as the flow of Amazonian freshwater as such. Now the forest here itself, the equatorial rainforest that you have itself, is referred by the term selvas. This is very very important to make sure you keep this in mind. In examination question like this is asked that selvas is recently in news, was recently in news. What of these, which of these particular geographical feature does it refer to? The selva is example of equatorial forest in the Amazonian basin as such. If you look at the expanse of Amazon, almost we can say extending all the way from the western part of South America to the eastern part of South America, draining out in the Atlantic Ocean. It is joined by several of the rivers, and if you look at the important tributaries, actually important tributaries of Amazon, so Saqueta is a river which is important tributary, Negro River is another important tributary. Then coming further from the right bank side, you have the Madeira River, then you have Tapajos River, and then you have Manaus is a very important place here where the Negro River joins the Amazon River as such. So Saqueta, Negro, Putumayo, another river we can say from here, Napo River you can say from here. Then further coming from the right bank side, you have the Jurua River, Purus River. So these all are important tributaries of Amazon River and are equally important river for the Amazonian rainforest and the ecosystem. The second important river system, as we have discussed, is Orinoco River system. So Orinoco River, if you look here, this is the third largest river system of South America. So Orinoco River largely we can see is flowing through the Venezuela, and it is part of the Guiana Highland. Interestingly, one of the tributary of Orinoco River is on which the Angel Falls is located. Angel Falls is part of Guiana Highland itself. Angel Fall is also considered as the tallest waterfall in the world, that stands at about 979 meters as such. Now Orinoco River is joined by several rivers, as you can see from here, Meta, Guaviare and Apure. These are some of the important tributaries of Orinoco. Orinoco then finally drains out in the Caribbean Sea near an island. Here you have a separate island country. This is called as Trinidad and Tobago. So near Trinidad and Tobago in Caribbean Sea, Orinoco River, after forming an estuary, dries out or drains out. Third important river system, if you look here, overall the Orinoco River, if you talk about the length of Orinoco River also we can consider here, that is about 2,736 km. Orinoco you can consider is still larger or longer than Ganga River. The length of Ganga River is 2,525 km. Orinoco River you can see it is flowing in what you can call as a arc like shape. That is why many times it is also referred as giant arc. Then further in the Orinoco River, as we have discussed, you will find grassland. As you can see from here, the grasslands of the Orinoco River basin, around the Orinoco River basin, is called as llanos, which we have discussed is an example of tropical grassland before. Now further, if you look at this entire river basin, south we have discussed, the second largest river system of South America is what we call as Parana Paraguay system. So it is made up of several rivers as such. This is the river that is called as Paraguay. Paraguay because the name of country itself is Paraguay here. Paraguay river then further is joined by another river called as river Salado. And then you can see from here near the Corrientes or Resistencia, Paraguay is joined by another river that is called as Parana river that originates from Brazil itself. So as you can see, Parana river. So we have Paraguay coming from the central part, Parana coming from the eastern part that you have in the Brazil, and then further it is joined by another river called as river Uruguay. So Parana, Paraguay, Uruguay, all these rivers then join together and then drains out, forming an estuary that is called as Rio de la Plata estuary as such. This is also one of the most fertile region of South America. Now interestingly, if you go further up to the north, along the bank of Paraguay River or nearby Paraguay River, you will find a region that is called as Pantanal. Now, Pantanal is very important to remember because Pantanal in the around Paraguay Basin is referred as the largest tropical wetland in the entire world as such. This Pantanal is famous for the dense crocodile. You will not find anywhere more dense number of crocodile or highest density. Pantanal basically you can say is the region with highest density of crocodiles in simple term if you want to remember. Plus this region is known for the jaguar species, and also it is believed that in the Pantanal wetland itself you will find the largest parrot species on the entire earth as such. So Pantanal very important ecosystem as such nearby the borders of Paraguay and Venezuela. So these are the important this points we have to keep in mind as far as the Parana Paraguay river basin is concerned. Area wise, if you consider the entire Parana Paraguay river system makes up roughly 2.8 million square kilometers of the area as such. Now further as you come to the south, we can see that you have the grassland. As you can see from here, the Pampas. Pampas we have discussed briefly is example of temperate grassland. These are very important grasslands of South America. And if you look at the Pampas, you have the rich fertile soil and predictable rainfall pattern. Now you'll say why predictable rainfall pattern? The reason is because the Pampas is near the coastal areas. You do not have any mountains here to obstruct the flow of wind. So all the time wind is flowing in a predictable pattern, and due to the coastal nature, the moisture humidity content is very high, and that is why you have a higher amount of rainfall in this area. Plus, as we have discussed that Parana Paraguay river system is flowing out, draining out here, that also provide it with the rich fertile soil itself. They are the most important grazing and cropland areas of the continent because of the dense nutritious grasses. Now again, if you take a look at the important rivers apart from the four that we have discussed, as I told you, this is the river Amazon, the largest river system in South America. Then you have the river Orinoco. Then second one, as you can discuss, river Paraguay, Paran system. Third is river Orinoco here, and the fourth one we have discussed, basically you can say, is river Sao Francisco in Brazil. Apart from that, you have several other rivers also. You should know the name at least. So other important river is river Tocantins. Tocantins river is again flowing in the Brazil itself. Then further to the south in Argentina, you will find coming from the Chilean Andes, you will find river Salado, and then you have river Negro. So these are what make up the major river systems of South America. Apart from the river system, few other points we have to keep in mind here. In the Andes mountain, you will find in the Peru-Bolivia border a lake that is called as Lake Titicaca. Lake Titicaca is considered as the highest freshwater lake in South America. Also, it is considered as the highest navigable lake in South America. So very important, Lake Titicaca you should keep in mind here. Further down south, you'll find Lake Popo. Lake Popo is also a very important lake nearby Lake Titicaca itself. Then, as you can see, near the Orinoco Basin, where it is flowing out, it is called as the Caribbean Sea. And then, if you go further to the west, this part is also in a country called as Venezuela. In Venezuela, you'll find a region. This region, if you look here, this is a lake. This lake is called as Lake Maracaibo. I'll write here clearly. Very important part of the South America. Lake Maracaibo. Lake Maracaibo is known for a very interesting phenomena that occurs here. This is called as Catatumbo lightning. Catatumbo is the name of river that drains out in this lake. That is why it is called as Catatumbo lightning. Now why it is unique and interesting? Because it is believed that on the entire earth, It is a Caratumbo near the Lake Maracaibo where you will find the highest number of lightning strike on the yearly basis. Every day, more than 200 to 300 lightning strikes occur here, and lightnings are very common phenomena because it happens about 160 to 180 days every year as such. So Lake Maracaibo, Lake Caratumbo. Plus, it has economic significance as well, as it holds a large amount of crude oil and natural gas reserve. We know that Venezuela is the country with largest oil reserve in the world, and one of the richest region of Venezuela where you find the crude oil natural gas is Lake Maracaibo as such. So Lake Maracaibo, Lake Titicaca, two very important lakes you should keep in mind as far as the South America is concerned. We have the rivers that we have discussed. Angel Falls, I told you, is the highest waterfall. It is located over which river? If the question is asked that Angel Fall, the highest waterfall in the world, is located along which river? The answer will be Lake Churun, River Churun. River Churun is tributary of which river? The answer will be River Orinoco. So that is how we can understand the water bodies of South America. Then if you look at the other important this physical features of South America, we can classify it as a coastal plain. The coastal plains of South America is divided into two parts. First of all, it is the fertile coastal plains in the Brazil. These fertile coastal plain, that is also where large amount of river water is supplied, is known for their sugar cane plantation. Even today, if you talk about the sugar production, Brazil is the country with the highest volume of sugar production, followed by India. So sugarcane plantation, plus Brazil also is one of the major exporter of sugar across the world, and the port cities that you have here in the Brazilian coast allow Brazil to export sugar to the entire world as such. In the older time, it has historical importance as well, because you know that Brazil was colonized by Spanish and Spain. So from the Africa, they used to bring a lot of Africans to work as a slave labor in these sugarcane plantation as such. Similarly, further to the east, you have other plain that is referred as Sertão in local language. Sertão basically refer to the interior plain of South America, which is influenced by alternate wet and dry climate, and here you have general occurrences of drought because the rainfall is very less. Because again, if you look at here, the Brazilian highlands prohibit the movement of the moist winds toward this part of the plain, and this side you have the Andes mountain. So again, from the Pacific Ocean also, moisture laden winds cannot enter the plain. So that is why the plain basically becomes a kind of a dry plain as such, and drought becomes very severe. And whenever you have heavy rainfall, the rainfall also causes devastating floods as such. So because of the two extreme of hydrology, extreme floods, extreme drought, obviously this region is suffering from poverty, and the poverty is so severe that life expectancy is very low here, because many times people unfortunately are dying due to the lack of food, and thus the life expectancy here is just 49 years. If you consider and compare with India, in India the average life expectancy is about 69 years as such. So that is how we have to understand this particular two plains of South America. Now also South America is known for the desert, and two major deserts we have to identify here. First is the Atacama Desert that you will find here along the coastal strip of Andes Mountain in the country that is referred as Chile. Now, Atacama Desert is also very interesting because it is not only the desert. Even if you talk about every desert on the earth, we know that it is known for its dry condition. But even in all the hot deserts, Atacama is referred as the driest desert because it receives very, very low amount of rainfall. Further, you go up in the Atacama, you will find other desert here also. That is a small desert you will find in the Peru region. Then other important desert you have in the eastern part of the South America, stretching all along the Argentina-Chile border, largely in Argentina. The desert is called as Patagonia Desert as such. And further up north here also, you have small desert like structures that you find here. This is called as Monte Desert. So you have Monte Deserts, Patagonia Desert on the eastern coast, and then you have the Atacama Desert, that is the driest desert of the world on the western coast of South America. So these are the two major deserts. Tropic of Cancer is passing somewhere through here, as we can see from here, from the desert region of South America itself. Island wise, if you look, Galapagos Island is something you should keep in mind here. Galapagos is very, very important island, and if you have read about Charles Darwin, you would have studied that it was Charles Darwin who first carried out a study here on the life form, biology, and based on that he gave his origin, this we can say his theory about the origin of life itself. So that is overall what we can understand as far as the major features of South America is concerned here. Now, as we can say, Atacama is driest desert. Question can also be asked that why Atacama is the driest desert. So it is obvious. First of all, the latitude of Atacama is such that it lies in what you can call as subtropical high pressure belt, where you have the descent of it. And as a student geography should be aware about the fact that winds, if they are rising up, can only cause rainfall. If winds are descending, it means they are getting compressed, they are warming, they cannot cause condensation, cannot cause cloud formation, cannot cause rainfall. So the subtropical high pressure belt where winds descend, these are not a good condition for rainfall. Second reason is along the coast of the Chile, you will find a cold current, that is Peru current. So Peru current, because of its cold nature, also produces drying or desiccating effect that also inhibits the rainfall in this area. And third, because of the presence of Andes here, the moisture laden winds are not able to enter from the Atlantic Ocean, and that is why also they do not cause any rainfall. Other way, we can say that from Atlantic perspective, the Atacama Desert lies in the rain shadow zone of Andes, and this orographic effect clearly is visible here. Western coastal plains are also extremely dry, and that is where we have the Atacama Desert, part of Western coastal plain, driest region in the world. Now, how dry? You also, if we have to look at from the data perspective, we can say that 1 millimeter, that is roughly only 0.04 inches of rainfall, you would observe in the Atacama Desert on an annual basis. Now, again, to give you some brief idea about the importance of South America, also from geography perspective, you have the highest capital city in the world, that is La Paz. You can see from here, people are basically using ropeways to move from one part of the city to the other part of city, the very high altitude region. Second, we have discussed the highest waterfall on the earth is Angel Falls, you'll find in South America, in Venezuela, that is 979 meter. Third, it is also known for one of the ancient wonders of the world, that is Machu Picchu, you will find in South America. In Peru, also one of the major tourist attraction you'll find is referred as Rainbow Mountain, because of the presence of different minerals. You can see the mountains exhibit different colors in different places, creating a huge what you can call as rainbow like effect. Now in Bolivia itself, because of extreme dry condition, salt flats are also found here. These salt flats are considered as the largest salt flats in the world, and this is what you call as Salar de Uyuni. So this name is very important. You should keep this in mind. Salar de Uyuni. It is the largest salt flats on the world. Something similar to what we have in Kutch in Gujarat. Run of Kutch in Gujarat you would have heard about. And it creates a very interesting kind of picture in the rainy season, because whenever rainfall happens, the entire salt flat is covered under a thin strip of rainwater, and this act like a giant mirror. So you can see from here, the entire sky is being reflected through the giant mirror that is formed in Salar de Uyuni, and that is why it attracts large number of tourists every year as such. And the last, if you remember, we have discussed that along the mouth of Caratumbo River, where it drains out in the Lake Maracaibo of Venezuela, it is known as the place having the highest number of lightning strikes across the world. This is referred as Catatumbo lightning phenomena, and this is how we can see the number of lightning strikes taking place at the same time in the same area. That is all for this particular video. I hope you understood the major features of South America and important facts that you have to keep in mind as far as the UPSC Prelims examination is concerned. That is all for this video. Thank you very much.